All Hands on Tech!
You're listening to All Hands on Tech. Come along as we get to know the people and businesses behind the province's ever-expanding tech sector.
Each episode, we'll chat with local experts to uncover the hidden gems that make Nova Scotia a hub for collaboration, innovation, and creativity.
All Hands on Tech is proudly produced by Digital Nova Scotia, the industry association for Nova Scotia's growing tech sector. Hey, welcome back to another episode of All Hands on Tech. I'm Eilish.
And I'm Ashley. If you've ever wondered how to make every dollar count in your digital marketing efforts, you won't want to miss this conversation.
BeResponsive Media is at the forefront of digital marketing, focusing on delivering data-driven, digital-centric solutions that maximize your ROI. So from SEO and website optimization to content strategy and social media, BeResponsive Media doesn't just offer services. They build campaigns that intentionally drive sales and growth.
In this episode, we'll look into what sets the company apart, learn insights into their unique process, and how they put their clients' best interest first with transparency and efficiency.
And at the helm of the BeResponsive Media ship is co-founder, CEO, and marketing strategist David Tonen, who is joining us in studio today. Hey, David, thanks so much for making the time.
Thank you for inviting me. It's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun.
Yes.
Okay, and to start that fun, we didn't tell you this in advance. I apologize.
Uh-oh.
But you listen to the podcast, so you should know that we always start with some icebreaker questions. You good for that?
I'm good for some
I
icebreakers.
love how you ask, are you good with that? Because we're still going to do it.
Yeah, you're. I have no choice. You're cornered now. You can't leave. The door's locked. Yes.
Okay, so do you want me to start?
Sure, yeah, you go
Okay,
first.
let's go first. Okay, so your website is great. Ashley and I actually talked about that when we were kind of doing our research about having you on the show. And you've got some kind of some, I don't know, it just seems different to me. You've got sections of the about the team blurbs, and you've got them broken down into work and life, which just resonated with me for some reason. But in your blurb, it says that you are an avid gardener in all seasons. So, what are you growing?
Well, I'm growing a little bit of everything legal, and everything vegetable and or flower related. So I actually, it comes from my Dutch roots, and my grandfather were big gardeners, and the Dutch people generally are all about being in touch with the land. So I love gardening so much that I've transitioned it from being just a winter activity or a summer activity into including it in the winter. So I've set up a little grow operation in my basement with lights and hydroponics, and so I grow lettuce and herbs and stuff all year round in the house because the Nova Scotia growing season is just too short.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. That's why I wanted to specify that in all seasons.
Yes.
Part, because I figured you must have a greenhouse or something. But even greenhouses, I don't think are successful in Nova Scotia if they're.
Yeah, and what I like about this is it took my wife a little while to get on board with the whole thing. But once we got to the place where it was working, and she can say, "Oh, I'm cooking something tonight that needs cilantro. Can you go downstairs and get me some?" Then I just go downstairs, snip, 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 and bring it up fresh cilantro. So the basement's nice because it's not influenced by the heat of the sun coming through windows. So hot and cold variations, things like that. And so I can have stable light and heat all year round.
I have to say, that's my dream. I don't have a green thumb at all, but it's my dream to have a garden that I could just tap into when and I love to make salsa, and it would be so much easier if I didn't have to go buy all the tomatoes. But anyways, I just can't be bothered to garden. Hopefully, once I get some time back after maybe the kids are a bit older, then I can get into it a bit more. But anyways.
Well, the whole endeavor does not save me money, but it is it's my
joke,
hobby,
right?
and it's just nice to be able to go downstairs and get fresh romaine or get whatever herb that we need.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I've always found that things that come, my grandparents were always huge on both sides, were huge gardeners. And some of my favorite childhood memories were going into the garden, pulling out a carrot, washing it in the rain bucket, which probably is a little questionable, and then just eating it straight from the ground, basically. And I always remember it just tastes better.
It does. You don't get any fresher than that. It is the best.
That's the joke where it's I just spent $50 on all this gardening stuff so I could get 4 tomatoes or something,
Yeah.
I'm sure you're better at it than that, but for those of us who don't know what we're doing, sometimes you spend a lot of money and you don't yield a lot of.
Oh, I've got stories I could go on about of disasters and bug infestations even in the winter and things like that. So yes, it's not all joy. The life of a farmer is not an easy life.
Oh, I know. Okay. Sorry, we could talk. We could talk about gardening.
That's not what we're here to do.
Okay, next icebreaker question. If you could swap jobs with any fictional character for one day, who would it be and why? I feel like that's a tough one on the spot, but if you've got any like...
That is a good question. A fictional character.
I know, I'm like, who would I pick?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll open it up that nonfiction as well.
Could be anybody. You can swap jobs with anybody.
Swap jobs with anyone. Well, I think it would be amazing to actually be a manager or leader in a sports organization, professional sports team. And it wouldn't really matter which, although I tend towards being a hockey fan. So how cool would it be to be able to be part of the leadership of a hocky organization?
So you mean more like manage the team, not like be the head coach?
I don't want to be the coach.
Okay.
I don't want to be on the ice. I'm not that great a skater. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of pressure, obviously, in the executive suite, but I think it would be amazing just to see even the whole operation from, president and CEO of a team to the marketing team and the public relations and things like that. Yeah.
And getting to have if your team's good, getting to have those successes and feeling that excitement if
Exactly.
they just won.
What's that movie with Kevin Costner? It's football, but it's about is it trading day or something like that? I have no idea. But anyway, it's about the behind the scenes of acquiring the talent, the management of it all. And it's so stressful. You're like, oh my gosh, that you think the sports, the actual gameplay is stressful, but actually managing the team would probably be.
But if you could take that whole organization to a championship,
Oh my
you'd be a hero.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to imagine, I'm not a football, I'm not really a sports girl to be honest, but the Kansas City Chiefs just won the Super Bowl, right? Can you imagine just the feeling of the execs having...
And not even just one, but they're on a winning streak. So
Yeah.
it's okay, so who's your NHL team then?
Oh, it's...
I'm remembering the joke from your website.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm a lifelong Toronto Maple Leafs fan.
Oh,
and
maybe.
people either love me for that or hate me for that or feel pity for that. They have not won in my lifetime. The last time they won the Stanley Cup was 1 month before I was born.
Oh my
So I've been waiting my entire life for this, and it has not happened in 57 years, but there's always hope. It's a new season.
Yeah.
And
What a dedicated fan.
yeah,
I love it.
or insane. Right? And the interesting flip side of that is my business partner Garth is a Montreal Canadiens fan, so it goes to show that someone who's a Leafs fan and a Canadiens fan can still coexist and be good friends and business partners at the same time.
I love that.
Love that. Okay, last icebreaker question. It might be the toughest, maybe not, depending on what your mind is going on in your mind. If your workday had a theme song, what would it be? And maybe it's a different theme song depending on how the workday went.
Wow.
Right? With all the hard ones.
Sorry, I apologize.
When I wrote these questions, it would be I don't even know, vanilla or chocolate.
That is a good one. It would probably be something from Aerosmith, since I love good old classic Aerosmith.
Yeah.
So, when I'm high, something that's really grooving. When I'm having a bad day, something that's gonna make me feel blue.
Yeah.
Okay, so you like to lean into the when you're a little sad, maybe you listen to some sadder music.
Sure. Yeah, I go with it, right? You can't always be up, but I have a tendency to be a little bit more on the positive side of the scale than the sad or negative side of the scale.
Yeah, we get that vibe.
Yeah. And your choice of hockey team.
I know. You got to be positive.
Okay, you survived the icebreakers. I promise this round of questions, the
All right.
actual questions we're asking you, are going to be hopefully a lot easier. Let's take it all the way back to the beginning for us to start here. What inspired you to jump into the world of digital marketing, and what keeps you passionate about it? You talked about being, an upbeat person. What keeps you that way?
Well, my career, my degree was from St. Mary's in marketing, and then I moved into a corporate life where I worked 20 straight years for Thomson Corporation, which is one of Canada's largest media companies, owns the Globe and Mail. But at the stage I was working for them, they had all kinds of different publishing interests in the educational publishing sector. So I got my whole career crafted in sales management, marketing management, a variety of different positions. And you know what, I really loved the fact that even in the education sector, this was helping to bring the best products of education into the hands of students in colleges and universities across Canada. So I loved it. And digital is the question you're really asking. And digital, what I love most about it is that it gives you data that helps you see whether it's working or not, and you can pivot quickly. So if you're paying attention, you have the right metrics, and we might end up talking about that more in a bit. But like if you're tracking the right metrics, you can tell if the things you're doing are actually hitting the right people and if it's working. And if it's not, then you need to be responsible and transparent with the client and or with your team, and then make adjustments to try to make it work. And I love trying to hit the mark and make things work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's what you do at BeResponsive. So kind of take us back then, 20 years at Thompson. How did BeResponsive come to be? Like, what's its founding story?
Well, the founding story is it started so BeResponsive has been around 9 years as of this past July. And when I just turned around about the age of 40, I was kind of not going through a midlife crisis at all, but I was starting to think about, I'd always had this little seed of entrepreneurism in my soul, but I always had this fear that I couldn't actually do it. Because there's a lot of risk, right, in being an entrepreneur. And you're also, after 20 years working in a corporate environment and having a managerial position, you have, the salary, the benefits, the company car. Yeah, right. And so, but when I hit 40, I kind of started on this 2-year journey of, but what if I did? And I kind of came to the point where I thought, I don't want to be 65 one day, look back on my career and wonder if I could have. Mm-hmm. So my wife and I had a long season of talking about it and thinking things through, and then we looked at it and I said, we agreed together that it was worth taking a risk, and we would set a 2-year block. So I'd leave the safety net of the corporate world, do a 2-year commitment thing to see if I could make it work, see if I liked it, and see if I was good at it. So that was the precursor to BeResponsive, and it was the hardest. It actually ended up being 3.5 years. It was the hardest 3.5 years of my career, in that you can have a marketing degree, you can have experience in sales, but there's a whole other thing that goes on when you're trying to run a business. And as soon as you start hiring employees, it's a whole other thing. So I started out with subcontractors initially, thinking it was just me and some subcontractors, because I can do web design. I'm not a web designer. I can do a little bit of graphic design, definitely not a graphic designer. And so I needed to have people around me as part of my circle. And so Garth Holmes was he's sort of the unicorn, jack of all trades, things digital and tech side of things, everything from IT to figuring out how to make Google Ads work, right? And so when we got into it, he was struggling getting enough client work aside from what I was bringing him. And so he he shared with me one day that he might have to go back and get a real job. And so I said, no, you can't, you're my best contractor. And so we just talked things through, and we decided that maybe together we were better. And because he's kind of the opposite of me, and I'm the opposite of him. So I'm kind of the sales, business development guy and brand strategy guy. He's the tech implementation, tech strategy, creative strategist, that side of it. And so basically it's become a really good partnership in that we balance each other off really great. And so we started that journey 9 years ago, and I would never look back on my corporate life. It was a real risk, but I've never regretted it. Super rewarding.
Yeah, I think it's, and it obviously sounds like you do understand this, that's not the reality for so many people. So It's incredible that you can sit here today and say, this was absolutely worth it. I'll never return to the corporate world. I'll continue on my own. So congratulations.
Thank you.
This is not a short amount of time.
No, and the first 3.5 years on my own were challenging and certainly not profitable. The first couple of years with Garth were challenging in that we were just trying to make our path and find our way. And we were making money, but certainly nothing like what I'd been making in my corporate life. And so, but it took a while to get going. And once we figured out who we really were and who we wanted to be and where our greatest strengths were, then that's really what started to catapult us, and that just started to happen just before COVID. So that there's a whole other thing which that's a curveball that no business owner can plan for.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we know about Garth. Tell us a little bit more about the rest of the team over there at BeResponsive.
Well, the rest of the team at BeResponsive they truly are a team of we call them unicorns, Garth and I, because they are really, really good at what they do and what their core competency is and their skills and their training and their education. But then they're all pretty open to exploring new things. And so sometimes we push them a little bit outside of their comfort zone, but it usually makes them even a better employee. And usually they're quite open to it. So, Thais was our very first hire, and her and her husband moved to Canada from Brazil and started life all over again from scratch. And the fun part for me as an employer is having a small part to play in helping bring somebody's dreams come true, right? So she started her career here. She, started a family, bought her first home, first car, and she's been with us for 7 years. And she really is a solid part of the glue that keeps us together as our lead designer and our project manager. She keeps everything on time and on budget. So she's great. And Diego is our data analyst, so he's also from Brazil. We didn't purposely go out of our way hiring Brazilians, but we've actually had 4 different staff members from Brazil over the course of the last 7 years. Yeah, and so Brazilians are great workers and come highly trained and really eager to put down the core of their career here in Nova Scotia, and we've been the beneficiary of that. So he's great in doing the data analytics and managing our accounting and our office. And then Claxton and Noah have been with us for exactly 2 years. They both started on the same day. Noah doing business development and helping me out with some of the sales and consulting with clients, and Claxton has become our brand designer in that he does most of our graphic design and web development, and having an entire cohesive team of 7 people. And I guess I forgot Lee, who is kind of like 3/4 time. She's doing all our content writing, and the more and more we get into some of the work with our clients, it's the content writing that is key to help craft the messaging for really complex products and systems that some of our clients are working with. So yeah, great team, love them all.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the services that you offer. And I'm curious also, what are some of the services that, companies or clients are looking for most often these days?
So, when you look at our website, we promote very heavily that we are a digital agency. Technically, we are an all-inclusive agency. We can do everything from trade show booths and print catalogs and business cards to the digital. But our greatest strength is, taking a website. We build websites, but I'd rather take one that's already built and healthy and refine it and turn it into a lead generation engine for our clients. So really that's that and all the peripheral of it, from ads to social media to blogging and articles and SEO. Like those are really the core things that we do, and we do better than most. I won't say we do it better than all, but we created a process called the Digital 360, and this is a process to really initially start with a client and help them see where their footprint is in the digital realm compared to their competitors, and then from there build up what the strategy is digitally, but also utilizing, like, so many of our clients are B2B, so we've heavily invested in that's kind of our wheelhouse, working with clients that are business to business, business to government. Do we have B2C clients? Absolutely, but our greater strength is B2B, and it's a completely different type of marketing than B2C.
That 360 offer that you guys have, that's not, I'm trying to remember from the website, you offer a free,
yes.
Is that?
No, well, it is and it isn't. So we do a little free snapshot. So we'll give anybody a free taste of what this looks like and what the process is, so they can see all the various types of data that we could dig into, and we just give them an initial snapshot of where they lie, what their footprint is compared to some of their competitors. And usually when they see that, then they usually want a little bit more. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I just thought that was really great, as a free option as well,
Yeah.
to offer that for
It's a good sales.
prospective clients.
It's a good sales hook, and it's a good way for us to begin to earn some trust and show our expertise. Yeah.
This might be a little bit of a loaded question. You've got nearly 30 years then, if I'm under your belt, so that's not a short amount of time.
It's over 30 years.
Is it over 30 years
Yes.
now? Okay, math is from you. In that time, what are some of the biggest changes that you've noticed in this industry?
Every year, every probably 5 to 7 years, there's some new big technology. So right now it's all the AI thing, right? Like, it's AI everywhere. And people freak out and think that this is going to end their career path or whatever. And I think what I love about marketing is the technology side of it, because it keeps changing and shifting. Now, it keeps you on your toes as a result. You really have to stay on top of what's happening. Like, we're constantly learning how Google's changing the algorithm so we can be better at SEO, how they change the rules constantly, and how they try to weasel you into the pathways you don't want to go to with Google Ads, and Meta does the same, right? But now AI is just opening up all kinds of other really unique opportunities, and the reality is they are opportunities. Yes, they will change the landscape, but they are not going to take out the human side of things to bring in the human story, the human emotion, and ultimately I think where AI is being used in a way that isn't good is people aren't always equipped to do critical thinking. And you really have to look at what ChatGPT kicks out and think about, does this sound right? And because sometimes the information you're getting, the data and the research is not right. And you know what the internet is. You can't trust everything you read on the internet, and what you can't trust everything you get out of ChatGPT.
So with that in mind, like you mentioned, there's always kind of a flashy new tool or something new that, maybe you should be implementing or thinking about implementing. But is there an underrated tool, that you always go back to, or tactic that people just don't think about?
People think about it, but they avoid it because they think it's going to be hard. And it's not a new tactic. It's an old, tried and true. It all comes down to strategy. So all these, whether it's AI and ChatGPT, or whether it's, we're going to do LinkedIn instead of Facebook, or we're going to run ads or do SEO. Like, at the end of the day, the question is who are you trying to reach? What makes you different as a solution than all your competitors? And then what tools will help you do that most effectively? And then the data to track whether it's working. And so many companies don't like to do strategy because they think of it as this old school, well, it's like a white paper thing that we do, and then we say we've done it, and we've created avatars and ideal client profiles, and we have a calendar, but we don't follow any of it. And so we've stripped it down to your marketing plan is a one-page sheet, and it's all built on a customer value journey, and every single tool aligns with various stages of the sales process. And for me, I think this is another thing that's really changed, or what is a difference that BeResponsive does that other marketing companies don't do as well. And it's not that they don't try to do it. It's building off of my 7 years of actually being a sales rep, right? So often in organizations, sales is one silo and marketing is another silo, and they don't often work well together, even though they really should. And so what we do, and what I advocate for very strongly as we work with our biggest clients, is if the marketing tools are not the right, if we're not looking at it through the lens of the salespeople and the customers they're talking to, then we're wasting our time. So really, this is just old school stuff, but it's become more and more a reality because once clients realize, there's something missing because our marketing hasn't been working, because we haven't actually had a plan, and it's creating the plan and then having somebody who holds you accountable to stick to the plan. And that's really what we do really well in our role with our clients, is crafting the plan, making weaves and bobs where you need to when things change, because market conditions change all the time, but then holding them accountable to following the plan, and that gives them much more confidence in sticking with budget, and it also helps them have the confidence that they can see that the stuff is working. So, yeah.
It seems like such a simplistic idea, but again, like you say, just back to the basics.
Yep.
It's not a new tactic. Obviously, it was successful, for it to have gotten its start and to stay around,
Yep.
especially despite all of the, advancements that we have now,
Yep.
right?
The advancements in technology are just tools. And at the end of the day, which ones are you going to use, and how are you going to use them to reach the people that are your ideal client? And not everybody is the right client. I'm actually writing a blog post right now or a LinkedIn post. It's a longer one, and it's all about not all leads are good leads. And too often people think they just want more leads, and I don't want people to get more leads. I want them to get more of the right leads. Yeah.
And I'm sure like even just something as simple as like, onboarding or someone new to your team, or like if there's turnover, like just having that roadmap is like something that you can easily hand off and explain. Like, I just think that it's so important to have. So totally agree with that.
Just that way everybody is all on the same page with the
Yeah.
team, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like it just streamlines your success ultimately.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody on the team knows the process, and the nice part too is then the client also knows we have a process that we're going to keep them accountable to, and they help write it. So then when we're holding them accountable, then we say, well, you said this is what you wanted to do. Are you changing your mind? And if they're allowed to change their mind, obviously, but then we need to craft a slightly different, zig or zag from the original plan.
Well, hey, let's switch gears a little bit. I kind of want to talk about networking because I think you were one of the first members that maybe I have a photo with. You and Noah. I remember it was like a Christmas mixer at Volta. I think,
I remember
like 2
it.
years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know what's funny? Before you go on, you're the first member that I have a photo
Really?
with. A member mixer.
So this is but this is like it speaks to like what we're getting to. Like you are just like an engaged member of the tech community. You make it a point to go out to events. Speak with people. Mentorship is a part of that, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I'm just curious, like why has that become such a big part of, just your, I don't know, like what you do and like, yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Like I just one of the founding values of Be Responsive was, we work in the community. We obviously have local clients, but we have many clients that are not even in Canada, which is a good thing, and because we're bringing revenue into the province. But we can't focus on just being, a U.S.-centric organization. We live in the community. We have our office in the community. Our team comes to the office almost every day. We are, and we want to be part of the community, and we want to give back to the community. And so some of it is just, I think it's important to be visible. If you're going to be part of an organization, then be part of it. And if you're not going to go to things, then don't be a part of the organization. And you know what, the interesting thing is, it happens quite regularly where, I might meet somebody and I'm not going to a networking event trying to sell. And too many people do that. And I'm just trying to make connections. But in the process, I think there's some weird thing that drives my wife nuts, is that I'm memorable for some reason. I don't know if it's the white hair or the
I was brand new to digital Nova Scotia when I went to that first mixer, and I was saying to Ashley, I was like, I met David. Like, I remembered your name, David. That, like, for me, that's a big thing. Like, the memory's not great, so I knew who you were after we left that mixer.
Yeah, there's something weird going on there, that it's the white hair or 6 feet tall or personality or a combination of all of the things, but people remember me. And so, what's interesting is you just keep meeting people and hearing more about their story every time you see them and see them again at other events. And the number of referrals we've had over the last 7 years, I think it's been about 7 years that we've been members of Digital Nova Scotia, 6 or 7. And, the first few years we were a member, but we were an absentee member in some regards. And then I was like, okay, if we're going to be a part of this, we should be a part of it. And the more we became a digital agency and not just a marketing agency, I was like, okay, it's even more important. And so, yeah, I just think I love meeting people. I love hearing their stories. And if I can, in a short conversation, do a little of the mentoring or give them some advice or some encouragement, why not? I think it's great. I love to pour into people.
Yeah, and truly, I know you say like you're not going there like trying to pitch your business or make a sale, but you really never know what could come from it. Like you meet someone, you add them on LinkedIn, and then maybe somewhere down the line, they're posting about they need something that you can offer, or you just never know.
Well, you don't. Like, I won't get into the specific names of the companies, but we went to a recent event, and I met a company there, and they work in the public safety and security sector, and we are very active, like that's one of our the sectors that is a vertical of ours. So we have numerous clients in the United States. So I said to them, do you know this company? And they said no. And I said, well, what if I was to just connect you? Maybe there's a possibility for you guys to work together or just be aware of each other even. And so made the connection via email. It turns out both those companies were at a conference in the States about a month later, and they had an on-site meeting, the two of them. Now, does something come of it? Maybe, maybe not. But now that at least they know each other, and I was able to facilitate that connection. It was fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I guess to that point, it's not only just for you, but if you can help benefit another member of your community, it could come back. And yeah, I love it. Anyways, I just wanted to ask you because I just love it. I guess because, we do have a lot of students also that come out and folks who want to get into the tech sector. Networking is obviously a great way to do that. But do you have any advice for folks who are nervous about it? You don't seem nervous about it, but
well, what's funny is I don't seem nervous about it. But if you had known me as a 20-year-old man, I was very insecure. I had very low self-esteem. And it was the process of being mentored and the process of being pulled into out of my box and out of myself and challenged to, and a lot of that happened through the sales side of things. I mean, you can't do cold.
You can't really be an introvert.
You can't. And so sales was instrumental in that, and marketing as well, presenting and being in front of people. If you had told me when I was 20 that I would stand up in front of people and do presentations on a regular basis, every week I'm doing it, I would have said it's never going to happen. But I've grown a lot, and I've grown out of those insecurities. But I'm still nervous when I present. But it's not nerves as much as it's adrenaline. It's actually something you feed off of. Totally. And too often I find people now say, "Oh, I'm too anxious. It's too much anxiety." It could be anxiety. I'm not downplaying that, but a lot of times it's just pure adrenaline, and you don't need to squelch that. You need to harness it.
Right.
And so, to the question you asked, is that I think even if you're not a networking kind of person, if you take the first few steps, it's amazing who you'll meet. And the easiest thing is to start asking people to just talk about themselves. Most of the time, if you get people talking about themselves, people love to talk about themselves. And so you don't need very many questions. It's just so what do you do? How long have you done it? And just building off of whatever they say. And, honestly, it's a lot easier than it seems. Yeah. But to the students, here's something. This is a piece of advice. Because I've noticed it at Digital Nova Scotia events. I've noticed it at other networking events I've been at around the city. Quite often students come there and I'll connect with them. They might be a graphic design graduate or they might be a marketing graduate. And I say, okay, well, why don't you, they've told me their story and I say, well, I'm a co-owner of a marketing agency. Why don't you send me your resume and a portfolio if you have one? And I give them a business card. Now, of 10 times that I do that, how many people do you think actually do it?
2.
It's 1.
Yeah.
And
I'm not all that surprised, to be honest, though. But yeah.
No, I'm not surprised anymore. I was really, really upset about it for the first little while. It's why are you going and saying that you're looking for a job if you're not this is the easiest pathway you've got, right? And so. And I always say, I'm not hiring today, but I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring.
Well, right? And then you might, when a position does open up, who are you going to think of? You're going to go to your own database first.
Right.
And if this person made a lasting impression and followed through and put in the effort, even when there wasn't an opportunity available in that moment, to me, I think, hey, they were eager.
Correct.
Yeah.
Let's reach out.
And having a fairly decent network myself, I run into other business owners that are, I'm looking for, and I'm I just got a resume from somebody. I'll forward it. I've done that multiple times, and I even have one fun story where I was able to contact the owner of a business, and even though he and I had never met, I said, I know someone who's applied for a job. I've met with them. I've also had breakfast with them, and they're really legit. So if your hiring team is looking for, are they worth the interview? I would say yes. And this person got the interview, and got all the way through to be one of the final 2 candidates. Now, unfortunately, he did not get the job, but the point was he was looking for his foot in the door, and he got that. And I wasn't trying to influence that. I was just trying to give him a chance. And I love doing that. Like, if he had got the job, it would have even been better.
David, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, like, good on you for doing that, because not everyone would like take the time. We're all so busy, and to be honest, like, whether that candidate got the job or not, like, even just having the chance to interview and go through that process was only like a learning experience.
Oh, it was.
Also. So
For sure.
yeah, that's amazing.
Okay, so very much in the same vein, you are very involved in our mentorship program with Digital Nova Scotia, which is incredible, and thank you, because it's a volunteer situation, it's your time that you're putting out there. Why, and I think you probably touched on it a little bit, but if you can just kind of elaborate on why it's so important to you. Why do you love, being able to make those connections and have those conversations? And I think it probably stems a little bit from that, like you said, you were insecure when you first kind of got
For sure.
out in the door. Is that really where it kind of comes from?
It really does. And I think, so it comes from kind of 2 prongs. Part of it is me and some of the benefits of mentoring I've had from people who were in the industry, or like I had one manager when I was working for Thomson. He was like the best mentor I had as a professional mentor, as a boss, right? And he invested a lot of time in me, and he pushed me out of my comfort zone and took me a long way. So I like doing it in that regard. But I also know that, my parents came to Canada from Holland after World War II. So they came with no money, couldn't speak English, had no family, started completely from scratch. So the immigrant journey resonates with me, because I've seen what my parents went through to build their life here from scratch. And so I love to pour into anyone whose the journey today is a little bit different than it was, after World War II, but there's still very many common similarities and such. And so I look at some of the things that people did for my parents to help them get started, and that benefited me. So why wouldn't I, if I have the opportunity to be a blessing to somebody else, to do the same? And so that's really where it stems from. And so that's why, Garth and Noah and I have participated in the program, and look forward to that continuing. And, I had one conversation this past session, and it was about 45 minutes, and this woman was a new immigrant to Canada, and she came with such good questions. But the thing she did was she actually sent me the questions in advance of the session, which was really well done. And so I knew what she was looking for, and I didn't have to think on the fly, although I'm pretty good at that, except if you ask me crazy questions like which fictional character I want to be. but I just love watching people who are like a sponge and really want to learn. And I've had the privilege of sitting with people over coffee or on Zoom meetings, and even if it's a 45-minute or an hour session, or if it's multiple ones, I just love the experience. And yes, it takes me out of my day, but I think it's part of the Be Responsive investing back into the community.
Okay, so with that in mind then, to get the most out of those conversations, you're speaking to these students or anybody who's, part of a mentorship program, or is just reaching out to you. You seem pretty approachable. How do they then get the most out of that 45-minute conversation with you? Send questions ahead of time. Is there any other advice that you would give them?
Always send questions ahead of time. One thing I do with almost everybody I have some sort of a mentoring session with, unless it's just like a 10-minute conversation at a networking event. But even then, if they're looking for a job, I'll say, if you want to send your resume, I would review it through the eyes of an employer, and I'll give you feedback. Some of my best sessions through the Halifax Connector program, or even the ones that I've done through Digital Nova Scotia, like I'm looking at their resumes and I'm giving them feedback. It's like, okay, this is what you think is important. Here's what's important from my side of the desk. And then the ones that are really engaged are furiously making notes. And then I say, now, if you want to make those changes, you don't have to, but if you want to, and you want to send me an updated version, I'll look at it one more time. And some do, many don't. But at the same point, then at least I feel like I've given them some inside information that might help them in, acquiring the job that they dream to have, right?
Having somebody in the industry that ultimately, I'd imagine you're trying to, get your foot in the door of yourself.
Yeah.
having somebody like that go through your resume and letting you know what works and what doesn't, that's
Yep.
invaluable.
Yep.
That's an incredible resource that you're offering.
Well, and usually they're people who are sales, marketing, or creative people, like designers or web developers or whatever. And I'm like, this is your opportunity to sell you. If you can't sell you, I'm not going to trust that you're going to help me sell us. So sell you and sell you well. And to do that, this is what these are some things that are missing and some approaches you could consider. I'm not going to do the work for them.
Right.
And that's why I offer them the opportunity to, make whatever changes they feel are appropriate for who they are,
Right.
and then send it back, and I'll give and most of the time the ones that send it back hit the mark like 95%. So
And this is like a whole other topic that we're not going to get in today. Like we've talked to Venora a little bit about it as well, like recruiting agencies, but like then you get into, you're saying, you're helping to mentor like new Canadians, and like there's just like when it comes to even resume building, like there's just different standards in different countries, and like so you come so maybe it's even like small tweaks,
Oh yeah.
maybe the content is great but it's not presented in the right way or something
Correct.
like that, right? So
Usually it's way too much content.
Yeah.
Like you're listing
Oh, yeah,
job
we're-
responsibilities and or companies that I have no idea what these companies are.
Yeah.
And it's not who the company is, it's what they do and how you help make them successful.
Yeah.
So not 15 bullet points of what you did at that position, but like 5.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't need your first ever job back in grade.
No. I don't want to see a 5-page resume. Nobody's going to look at that.
No.
Oh.
We're going to switch gears completely.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, we spent the whole episode talking about technology.
Right? And now we're going to talk about escaping it for a little bit.
Okay.
You do a really interesting thing for somebody who is in the digital world for your day job. You're obviously very passionate about it, but you go on a technology sabbatical.
I do.
What is that and why?
So 5 years ago, so maybe I'll step it back one more step. So about 14 years ago, I kind of went through a season of exhaustion burnout. And I learned a lot about myself in the 3 to 4 months of trying to recuperate from that. And at the time it was good. It was before BeResponsive. It was just before BeResponsive. It's one of the catalysts that made me decide I wanted to get away from certain stressors in the corporate management environment and do something different. So I know the signs when I'm getting tired and when I'm getting stressed or when I'm getting burnt out. So 5 years ago, I could feel some of those coming back on. So I decided, okay, I think we all need time to kind of sit back and do some self-reflection, and you can't do it in one day, and you can't do it when there's a lot of noise going on. So I'm very blessed to, when we moved back to Nova Scotia, we spent 5 years in Toronto. When we moved back to Nova Scotia almost 25 years ago, we had a piece of property. We built a house on the ocean. So it's almost like living in your cottage year round. And it's a bit of ways outside of the city, so it's super quiet. And so I turned my house into a cottage for 2 weeks. And I go completely opposite of what my regular daily life is. So my daily life is highly scheduled, very routine. Like you say, like it's technology, right? Like my phone is constantly, it's constantly on. I'm constantly, even when I'm in relax mode, I might be scrolling through LinkedIn or I might be scrolling through Instagram, and my mind's processing. Because I work in Bedford and I live in Muscatobit Harbor, I have almost an hour drive. So what I realized as I did it the first time is like, okay, I'm really tired. I'm mentally tired. Why am I so mentally tired? It's like because my brain is constantly processing all day, every day, from the moment I get up in the morning till the moment I go to bed at night. I'm processing stuff. And I thought I need to figure out a way to recharge my brain. And so I thought, okay, what's stressing me out? And it's the constant ringing, pinging, and dinging of the phone, and reading, just constantly reading, like reading emails, reading content, reading strategy documents, and then doing intensive Zoom meetings and things like that. So I'm always on. Mm-hmm. And so for 2 weeks, I started it 5 years ago. I literally shut my phone off. And everybody knows, and it was really, really hard the first year because it was like an addiction,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
That doesn't
Because I'm constantly, when I'm not doing something, I'm picking up my phone, right? And so what I decided to do is try to break that. And it took, the first week was really hard. And then the second week I was kind of getting in the groove. So once I did it the first year, the second year was way better. And I had a plan going into it, and I can basically detox off the phone in 24 hours because now I'm looking forward to it, right? And really what it is an opportunity to rest myself mentally, but it's also getting out of the schedule. So these are 2 weeks my wife knows, nothing is to be scheduled during these 2 weeks. So it's total spontaneity, which is totally opposite of what she is. She is a high school teacher. She's an organizer, a planner, and everything is scheduled. And everything at work is organized, planned, and scheduled. And so my whole life is that way. And for 2 weeks, I want spontaneity. And it doesn't mean I don't do anything, but I wake up in the morning and I go, beautiful day. I think it would be nice to go for a walk on the beach today. Hey, hon, you want to go for a walk on the beach? And so we'll go to the beach, right? Or I might just say, I just need more time to rest. And I'll literally sit in a deck chair and look at the ocean, watch the seagulls fly by, right? But because I don't have the ringing, pinging, and dinging, it allows my head to rest. So the first week is very much just rest, and the second week is evaluation. So I do a lot of reflection on, I only have so much time, so am I using my time wisely? And so are there any things that I'm doing that I should probably stop doing because they're not an effective use of my time? Or are there any things that I could start doing because I've stopped doing them somewhere along the way? And every year I come out of it with usually one thing that I will stop doing and one thing I'll start doing. And it's a total refreshing time for me, and it's really good for me. It's really good for the business. It's really good for my marriage. And it's coming in 2 weeks and I can't wait.
Is it always 2 weeks? Like, are we going to up it to 3 or 4?
Well, actually, last year I thought 3 really would be optimum.
Yeah.
It's really hard as a business owner to take 3 weeks and be 100% unplugged. And I've talked to many other CEOs and corporate leaders, and many of them say, I could never do it. It's like, no, you could do it. You just choose not to. You have to find a way to do it. And I think as it's become more important once I got past 50, because I think if I'm going to be as effective as I need to be as a leader, I need to be charged up, and and that's my season to charge up. So if BeResponsive wasn't in a strong, we're in a really big growth phase right now, so 3 weeks isn't optimum, but it's coming.
Yeah.
It is definitely coming.
But I love that you also say, it's not just great for BeResponsive, but it's great for your marriage. There's things outside of work that we need to consider.
Yes.
Look at the whole picture. Obviously you want to do what's great for your business as an entrepreneur. It's your baby, I get that. But, there's other things in life that are important.
For sure.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so nice. 2 weeks without.
2 weeks of just turning off my phone really does sound incredible, because unfortunately I've noticed this about myself, that I am absolutely somebody who decompresses at the end of the day by scrolling. And it's so bad.
I know.
It's so bad.
Right.
I was absolutely mortified when I'm an iPhone user, and when they decided to hit
Let
my
you know.
phone with my screen time.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing.
And I think from a corporate or just a job perspective too, we both come from media. So I don't know if that damaged us in some way, but I was constantly looking at my emails to see what's coming, what's happening, right?
Yeah.
And that's definitely even into my role now, I'm just, even on the weekends, why am I checking my work emails,
Right.
It's just habit. But anyways, it's definitely something that would love to try myself. I just got to say, a lot of people listening are probably thinking
it like I said, no doubt, it was really hard to do the first time.
Yeah.
And it requires some discipline. And I mean, there's also, because I'm a business owner, Garth has a phone a friend that he can call if something really bad were going down. And he's only actually invoked it once in the last 4 times, and that was when he was hiring Claxton. He's like, I found a guy and I really want to hire him, but I need to talk. You should probably know about it before I do that.
But I think that also speaks to the fact that you can do this.
Yeah.
Being in the position that you are at the head of the company, I think that really speaks to how incredible your team is as well. You obviously trust them.
100%.
Run the ship without you there, and I think that's great.
Having a business partner like Garth, knowing that he can handle it, he knows everything that's going on, even if he's, in the 2 weeks leading up to it, he gets kind of brought up to speed on a few things that he's probably more on the peripheral of. And, but I know I can walk away and the business is in good hands and the team is spectacular. Like, I trust them 100%. And it's so nice to be able to come back and know that, I mean, there's always quirky things that happen while you're gone, but it's not catastrophic. It's never been catastrophic.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's my last question about it. Do you come back to like just a million emails?
I've actually gotten good at that too, because there is a lot. The first day is a little bit overwhelming, but I've actually gotten very good at just noticing what is urgent and what isn't. And so a lot of what we do internally, we do with a scheduling platform called Active Collab. And so a good chunk of my emails, probably 60 to 70% of them, are going to be things about what's going on in projects. And so I can just, anything that's like that, I can just delete it, because I'm going to get brought up to speed in the first meeting I come back. We have a weekly meeting, and here's what's going on. And within a few days, I'm up to speed with what I need to know. And Thais is amazing, and Garth is amazing, and keeping me up to speed on, okay, here's some things you need to know about. There's always like 2-3 weeks down the road, and I'm like, what happened there? How did that happen, right? But for the most part, it's, again, it's not usually something catastrophic. It's just, I never expected that zig or zag in that project. And so, yeah, they can handle it. They're awesome people, and they need to be empowered.
Love that.
Yep.
Well, we've reached the end of the episode. Unfortunately, this has been a great conversation. We do want to just leave you with the last words. I mean, you did mention that you're in a big growth period at BeResponsive. So is there just anything new and exciting you want to plug, or just the floor is yours?
No, maybe what I'll do is I won't plug anything about BeResponsive. I think what I would do is I would give one tip to people who will go back to the networking thing. Here's one thing that I wish people would do. And if anybody's listening to this episode who met me for the first time at a Digital Nova Scotia event, they'll know that this is true of me, and it's true every single time. When you meet somebody at a networking event for the first time, either get a business card, which is getting more and more rare, or connect with them on LinkedIn while you're there. It's super simple to do. 99% of people have one of those two things. And then the next day, I send a DM through LinkedIn and say, hey, it was nice meeting you last night at the DNS event. I really appreciated hearing your story about whatever. And that's it. I'm not selling. I'm just acknowledging that I remembered that I met them. And or if I have an email, I'd prefer to do it that way, because now my email's in their inbox. And most people appreciate that. Most people don't do that. So the whole point is, if you're going to a networking event, it's not just about what happens there. It's about building some sort of memory, not in your memory, but in the person you met, that some way for them to realize, and just that second follow-up creates a greater memory than the 10 or 15 other people that they met. And like I said, I'm not selling. I'm not saying, hey, if you ever need marketing help, you can reach out. They know that, right? And usually what happens is people check out your profile the next day, or they probably on your website. And I've had numerous people say, after you emailed me when we met last time, I realized you guys do this, this, and this. And so, again, not selling, and they're not even necessarily ready to be a customer yet, potentially, but at least they know what we do. And that's right. So if people did that in their networking or going to trade shows or conferences, companies spend a fortune going to trade shows and having a booth, and they have really poor follow-up and this is one simple way just to take care of the connections that you make and make it worthwhile.
Well, hey, great advice.
What a way to end the episode. My goodness. That was great. Thank you so much for making the time. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Just, like we pointed out, you were such an engaged member for a multitude of reasons, but even just taking the time to have this and your final words being advice to other people, it's just so fitting for who you are as a member, but also as a businessman and CEO.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys taking the time and giving me this opportunity. It's been a good time.
Recorded by This Is Marketing, unblanding branding since 2015.